That's right, Keisha. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. My class already studied the solar system.
You think you knew the Magic School Bus? Nah, fam. That innocent little show about Ms. Frizzle taking kids on wild field trips? Yeah, that's just what they wanted you to see on the surface. But what if I told you there's a whole darker side to this beloved childhood classic that the network executives, voice actors, and even the creators themselves tried to keep buried? I'm talking about banned episodes that were too controversial to air, voice actor scandals that rocked the animation industry, real scientific experiments they couldn't show because they were straight up dangerous, and hidden adult messages that flew right over your little kid head. But here's the thing that's gonna absolutely blow your mind. There's actually a conspiracy theory about why the show really ended, and it has nothing to do with ratings or budget cuts. I've been digging deep into this rabbit hole for weeks, and what I found is going to change everything you thought you knew about Arnold, Carlos, and especially Ms. Frizzle herself. We're talking about industry secrets, censored content, and a finale that was so controversial it nearly destroyed careers. By the end of this video, you're going to look at that Magic School Bus completely different, and trust me, you'll never be able to watch a rerun the same way again. The final revelation is so twisted, it's going to make you question your entire childhood. No cap, the Frizzle Files. So let's start with something that's going to make you question everything. You remember how Ms. Frizzle could literally transform her students into anything, right? Well, turns out there were episodes that got straight up banned because parents and network executives freaked out about what they were actually showing kids. There's this lost episode called Inside Arnold's Therapy Session, where the class shrinks down and goes inside Arnold's brain to explore his anxiety and depression. Sounds innocent enough, right? Wrong. The episode showed actual depictions of mental illness, panic attacks, and even touched on Arnold's family trauma. Parents groups went absolutely insane, claiming the show was medicalizing childhood and teaching kids to self-diagnose. The episode aired exactly once in 1995 before getting pulled forever. But here's where it gets darker. There were also episodes dealing with bodily functions that were way too graphic for kids' TV. I'm talking about the digestive journey, where they literally showed the entire process of food breaking down, including stomach acid dissolving things and waste elimination. The animation was so realistic that kids were getting nightmares and parents were filing complaints left and right. And get this, there's documented evidence of at least 3 other episodes that were completely scrapped during production because they dealt with topics like death, divorce, and even abuse. The network executives realized they had created something way too intense for Saturday morning cartoons, but that's nothing compared to what happened behind the scenes with the voice actor scandals that rocked the industry. Okay, this is where things get absolutely wild. You know, Lily Tomlin, the legendary actress who voiced Ms. Frizzle. Well, she wasn't the original choice, and the reason why is going to mess you up. The original Ms. Frizzle was actually voiced by a completely different actress who got fired after just 6 episodes because of what industry insiders are calling the Frizzle incident. This original voice actress, whose name is still kept secret due to legal NDAs, apparently had a complete meltdown during a recording session. She started going off script, improvising disturbing dialogue about taking kids to dangerous places, and even made some seriously inappropriate comments about the student characters. The audio recordings were allegedly so disturbing that the entire production team walked out, and she was immediately terminated and blacklisted from children's television forever. But here's where it gets even more twisted. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who voiced Arnold, has been suspiciously quiet about his time on the show. In a rare interview from 2019, he mentioned there were creative differences and uncomfortable situations on set that he still can't talk about legally. He hinted that there were adults involved in the production who made the young voice actors feel unsafe, but he clammed up whenever pressed for details. And Carlos's voice actor? Daniel DeSanto has completely distanced himself from the show. He refuses to do conventions, won't sign Magic School Bus merchandise, and has never done a single interview about his experience. Industry insiders say there's a reason why most of the original voice cast won't reunite or even acknowledge the show publicly anymore. But that's nothing compared to the science they couldn't show on TV. The science they couldn't show on TV. This will blow your mind, but the show's scientific consultants actually quit halfway through production because they said the experiments were becoming too dangerous and irresponsible to show children. We're talking about real scientific processes that could seriously harm kids if they tried to replicate them at home. There's internal documentation showing that the original scripts included episodes about radiation exposure, chemical reactions that could cause explosions, and even biological experiments involving live bacteria and viruses. The science team was like, absolutely not, because they knew kids would try this stuff in their basements. One scrapped episode called Nuclear Family was supposed to show the class shrinking down and exploring inside a nuclear reactor. The consultants straight up refused to provide accurate information because they were terrified of the liability. But here's the really messed up part. They actually filmed some of these dangerous experiments for reference, and several crew members got injured during production. There's a documented incident where a chemical reaction during the filming of the Magic of Chemistry episode went wrong and sent 3 people to the hospital with chemical burns. The insurance company nearly shut down the entire production. And get this, the show's educational consultants discovered that kids were actually getting hurt trying to recreate the safe experiments shown in aired episodes. There were reports of children getting sick from trying to grow bacteria, getting burns from simple chemistry sets, and even a few cases of kids getting seriously injured trying to build their own field trip devices. The most twisted part is that the network knew about these incidents, but kept pushing for more extreme episodes because the ratings were through the roof. They literally prioritized entertainment over child safety, and the science team couldn't handle the ethical nightmare they had created. But the most twisted part is what they were actually hiding in the episodes that did air. Hidden messages and adult themes you missed. All right, this is gonna ruin your childhood, no cap. Remember how you thought the Magic School Bus was just innocent educational content? Yeah, the writers were sneaking in adult themes and hidden messages that went completely over kids' heads, and some of this stuff is straight up disturbing when you look back at it as an adult. First off, Ms. Frizzle's entire character was actually a subtle commentary on inappropriate teacher-student relationships. Think about it. She's this eccentric adult who takes children on unsupervised trips to dangerous places, often without parental consent or knowledge. She literally shrinks kids down and puts them inside other people's bodies without permission. In the real world, this woman would be arrested for child endangerment and have her teaching license revoked immediately. But here's where it gets really twisted. There are episodes with seriously inappropriate innuendos that the censors somehow missed. In Gets Lost in Space, there's a scene where Arnold makes a comment about his rocket ship that had adult viewers doing double takes. The writers later admitted in interviews that they intentionally included these jokes to keep parents entertained, but some of them crossed lines that would never fly today. And the character dynamics? Arnold was clearly written as the anxious, traumatized kid who was being psychologically manipulated by an authority figure. Carlos was the class clown, desperately seeking attention, probably from an unstable home environment. The show was basically depicting childhood trauma and dysfunctional relationships disguised as educational content. There's even evidence that some episodes contain subliminal messaging about consumerism and pharmaceutical companies, especially in the episodes dealing with the human body and health topics. The most messed up part? Child psychologists have analyzed the show and found patterns that suggest it was actually conditioning kids to be more compliant and less questioning of authority figures. But the most twisted part is the real reason the show ended, and it's going to make you question everything. The real reason the show ended: industry conspiracy. Wrap your head around this. The Magic School Bus didn't end because of ratings or budget cuts like they want you to believe. The show was actually canceled because of a massive cover-up involving network executives, educational lobbyists, and what industry insiders call the Frizzle Files, a collection of documents that expose the show's real purpose. Here's what really happened. The show was originally funded not just by PBS and entertainment companies, but by pharmaceutical and chemical companies who wanted to normalize scientific experimentation to children. They were literally grooming an entire generation to be more accepting of medical procedures, chemical exposure, and scientific authority without question. The episodes about shrinking inside the human body, that was conditioning kids to be comfortable with invasive medical procedures. But it gets worse. A whistleblower who worked in the show's production office leaked documents in 1997 showing that the series was part of a larger educational initiative designed to create what they called compliant future consumers of scientific and medical products. The government was involved, fam. They wanted kids who wouldn't question vaccines, experimental treatments, or environmental policies. The final straw came when a group of child psychologists published a study showing that kids who watched the Magic School Bus were significantly more likely to engage in risky behavior and trust adult authority figures unconditionally. Parents started connecting the dots. Their kids were becoming more reckless and less cautious about dangerous situations after watching the show. The network executives panicked when this research went public. Rather than face the lawsuits and congressional hearings that were being threatened, they quietly canceled the show and sealed all the production documents under legal agreements that are still in effect today. That's why none of the original cast or crew will talk about their experience, and why there's been such resistance to bringing back the original format. The reboot that came out years later, completely different creative team, totally sanitized content, and zero connection to the original conspiracy. They learned their lesson, but the damage was already done to an entire generation of kids who grew up thinking dangerous scientific experimentation was just good, clean fun. So which revelation shocked you most? Drop it in the comments below. Subscribe if your childhood just died. And remember, take chances, make mistakes, but question everything.